If I had a nickel for every time after a British Grand Prix I made a video about Red Bull, I would have two nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird it's happened twice. 2 years in a row now, where after the British Grand Prix, the tides massively shift at Red Bull, and don't hate me for wanting to talk about this mess, but as you may know, the 2026 Formula One season has primarily seen Mercedes on top, and whenever they do fail to win, like the British Grand Prix of 2026 or Barcelona Grand Prix of 2026, Ferrari wins those races since these two teams have easily the best cars on the grid. This is not an unheard of dynamic since, of course, we all remember the Lewis v Seb days, so this sort of order is not too unfamiliar. However, to a newer fan it may be, since if you started watching the sport after 2021, you have likely only known Red Bull as being the dominant ones. They had the fastest car and driver since, of course, Max Verstappen ran rings around the grid in his dominant Red Bull cars, and even if last year saw Red Bull with the worst car to McLaren, that sure didn't stop Max from being the difference maker and winning races regardless. So coming into 2026, even if they have a new engine supplier, Red Bull were at least expected to deliver a car capable of winning races here and there. However, ooh boy, have Red Bull really dropped the mark this year, since it has been a while a team has fallen off this much. Ironically, the last time I witnessed a team go from winning an abundance of races before debuting the next year and performing so much slower was Red Bull in 2014. Also, ironically, where Mercedes became the dominant ones. Red Bull in 2026 are certainly nowhere they would like to be, but remember what I said about 2025? Max is often the difference maker in the car, and even if he is given bad machinery, he could still make the most of it and deliver great results for the team. But that just hasn't happened this year. Now, it's not total doom and gloom. Max Verstappen has, of course, stood on the podium a couple of times, but I literally mean only a couple of times, since his 2 podiums of the year is a far cry from his 10 wins last year. So are Red Bull that bad then? Not even Max can do much in the car? I wonder how his poor teammate is doing. Well, Max is ahead of Isak in the standings, but not by much, and Isak is actually doing well to stay close, if not ahead of Max at times. It's clear that with more experience in the car and team, Hadjar could very well start to contest Max for true instead of these one-off weekends. Now, this of course doesn't mean that the Red Bull car is secretly good, since of course it isn't. It's still one of, if not the most overweight on the grid, but one driver is able to do okay in it and not have incidents, while another is piling incident after incident. So this begs a question: has Max Verstappen lost Red Bull? Well, to understand that, we need to ask another question, which is, has Red Bull lost Max Verstappen? Because something about this team is that most things are centered around Max. If Max does bad, the team does bad. So who broke whose trust first, the team or Max? To understand this question, let us recap the season so far from Red Bull and get to answering. Subscribe if your relationship is no longer working out too, and let's get to quacking now.
A good weather for a race, but especially for a talk.
Heading to the 2026 F1 season, Red Bull were pretty optimistic. I mean, there were some worries, sure, but it's a new regulation period for everyone, and given their momentum off the back of 2025, why be pessimistic? Sure, everyone for the past 3 years have known Mercedes will be the team to beat, but we don't know their gaps, and any team can be the second fastest. So when rumors come out that Red Bull have a pretty good engine in these engine-dominant regulations, again, why be pessimistic? So preseason rolls around, and after everyone can see with their eyes the running order for the 2026 Formula One season, how are Red Bull? Oh. Now, they don't look too bad. They clearly have a great engine in the car in terms of performance, but when it came to the battery, it wasn't the worst, but it seemed like teams like Mercedes and Ferrari were clear. However, a good car chassis and aero can make up that difference, so does it? Oh, now the car has good pieces and bodywork on it. The issue is just that it's heavy as a motherfucker, so it's not looking that good, but maybe round 1 can be an upset, which hey, it is, as a Red Bull car qualified in 3rd ahead of both Ferraris who were expected to be the second fastest. Good job, Max. I knew you still had it in you. Oh. Yeah, it was actually Isak Hadjar who qualified in 3rd as Max. Track is that way, buddy. Now, he didn't crash from his own fault, mostly. The rear brakes had a malfunction which caused him to lock after one little tap of pressure and sent him into the barrier to explode. Kinda like how I explode after one little tap. Stop. So starting from the back of the grid and your first race under these new cars, it's not ideal to say the least. However, Max does complete a good comeback drive as he finishes in P6 behind Norris in 5th, while Hadjar's engine did unfortunately explode. Kind of like how I explode. Round 1 wasn't exactly good for Red Bull and Max, but China can be the comeback and the season will start now. Oh. In sprint qualifying, he qualifies in 8th and finishes in 9th in the sprint race, while he qualifies in 8th again for the main qualifying with Hadjar within a 10th, gets a shit start in the race, comes back, and retires with the car issue with 10 laps to go. I mean, you couldn't write a worse weekend for Max, but hey, at least it didn't crash in qualifying. Baby steps, you know? Surely Japan is the real start of the year, and the Max we have come to know for the past couple years will look whole once more. Oh. In qualifying, Max has a shocker as he gets out in Q2, not only outqualified by Isak Hadjar, but also by Arvid Lindblad, the Racing Bulls rookie. Max claims he just can't drive the car well since it was so unbalanced, and it's not what you want to see at all. He is able to recover to 8th, but Pierre Gasly in the Alpine got his elbows out to keep 7th place for himself, and even if Max got it, I would hardly call a P11 to P7 drive and a Red Bull a good recovery. So as we head into the April break, why are things like this? Well, again, Red Bull have a boat with 4 wheels and a setup window so small that's just not worth trying it at times. Hadjar is able to do somewhat well in the car, but only somewhat since he is having his struggles in the car as well. And as we return to Miami in May, Red Bull have better bring upgrades and they better work for Max's sake. So as we head into the Miami Grand Prix, oh, in qualifying, Max was honest since he qualified in P2 behind Kimi Antonelli, crucially ahead of both Ferraris and George Russell. But on race start, he gets absolutely tramped on by Leclerc and wanting to get a fast exit, drops his car at turn 2 and falls all the way down the order once more. He is able to come back to 5th, but a podium was absolutely on the cards and Max once more has thrown it away. Is he fading? Canada has to be better, right? And you know what? It finally was. After narrowly outqualifying Hadjar, Max makes up for that by having an almighty race by making crucial overtakes and having great pace, and it led to his first podium of the year and Red Bull's first with a cool 3rd place. It has taken a while, but now can be the start of the year as long as Max gets these crucial results via these crucial drives. Everything will be just fine. Ooh. Max Verstappen in Monaco nearly misses out on pole by 400s to Kimi Antonelli, but if you can't start first in Monaco, second is still good since with a better start, you could still take the lead. And hey, look at that. Kimi is dog shit starting this year. Now, Max is as well, but hasn't been in a while. So as the race starts, bye Max. The car immediately fails off the line and there goes another weekend where results just couldn't come from Max Verstappen. Barcelona at least was a better weekend since Max qualified in 5th and would have finished there, but finished in 4th thanks to Kimi exploding in a million little pieces, which isn't the best weekend for Max, but hey man, at least he finished and had no mistakes in this one. So as we head into the Red Bull ring, what does Max Verstappen have for us at one of his favorite tracks on the calendar? Oh, is only half that since in qualifying, he was fighting for pole position with the Ferraris and Mercs, and right when he looks like he'll cross turn 9 and turn 10 to set a stormer, he crashes the car and has to start in 5th. The team claimed it was a rear wing issue, so I guess we'll have to take their word. However, Max from 5th is able to slice his way up and finish in 2nd by the end of it and could have won it had there been a couple more laps. So it was a weekend of ups and downs, but if Silverstone can be faultless, Lord knows what Max can do here. Oh, from the practices, Max does not look comfortable in that car, and in qualifying, gets out-qualified hard by Isak Hadjar, and while he is able to overtake him in the race and potentially stand on the podium, at Stowe, he loses the car and DNFs into the barrier. The team claims the same issue from Austria once more, but is it actually? Footage shows the rear wing working as intended, and if the fault is caused by mere millimeters that is virtually invisible to the naked eye, then that sure is convenient, huh? So now that we have seen Max's season, is Max really plagued by so much bad luck, or is he genuinely struggling in these new cars? Well, guess what, guys? The fence sitters win once more since, guys, it's a mix of both. We can't look at moments like his start in Monaco or his DNF in China and be like, well, he should have done better, asshat. No, of course Max has been almighty unlucky this year, and this unluckiness stems from Red Bull. These things killing him in these races are things that could have been prevented by Red Red Bull. How, you may ask? Just have the engine be more reliable. The engine is fast. Don't let people tell you otherwise. It's consistently one of the fastest ones every weekend, and it's certainly much better than the Ferrari engine. The only reason why it doesn't reflect that is because when they are managing issues every lap or blowing up, it's not exactly a good comparison now, is it? Plus, Red Bull have also built a car heavier than your mom, which makes it quite the car to drive at times. So in essence, I don't blame Max for some of his incidents in TNF since there is little he can do in those situations. However, Max is also certainly struggling in these cars. Did his rear wing really fail in Austria or Silverstone? Maybe, I wouldn't be surprised, but I also wouldn't be surprised if those mistakes were caused by his own driving. When he is driving the inconsistent dogshit that is the RB22, I too would want to do everything possible to launch it up as far up the grid as possible. Something to also consider is how Max's period of dominance and whole F1 career basically has come in ginormous and Bodhi downforce demons. He could push that car right to the edge of its limit and come out fine because there was so much downforce to use. Now that these cars have significantly less downforce, Max perhaps forgets that his old habits in the old cars do not work anymore. Plus, not to mention, he hates the battery aspect of the cars, which could perhaps unmotivate him to drive at times when he is getting super fast on the straights. Of course, everything I've just said right now is complete speculation and just what I believe, but it is undeniable that while Max is having his fair share of bad luck, he has made plenty of natural mistakes as well that to me do indeed show that he is absolutely struggling at times to drive these cars, which is not the end of the world, you know. Great drivers do struggle in certain car regulations at times. That's just how it goes. Remember Lewis and the ground effects, for example? Lewis is currently showing us that he absolutely still has it, which just makes me wonder, what could have Lewis done had he either gelled well with the ground effects or if they didn't exist in the first place? I reckon the same thing is happening right now with Max, and again, it just happens. It's not the end of the world. Going back on topic though, let's finally answer the question of the video. Has Max Verstappen lost Red Bull, or has Red Bull lost Max Verstappen? Well, I think it's pretty clear. Red Bull has absolutely lost Max Verstappen. Because sure, Max is struggling hard this season and Hadjar at times is ahead. So on one hand, one could say that Max's poor performances are leading to Red Bull kind of giving up on his car, but no, man, no. Red Bull built a heavy-ass car that, okay, is fine at times. Max has definitely driven worse, but that's the thing. The RB20 was a mess. The RB21 didn't hit its potential until it was too late, which before then was also a sloggy mess. The RB22 is overweight and lacking in battery power. 3 years in a row now has Max given suboptimal cars by Red Bull after previously have been given good, if not great cars by the team. So the Red Bull losing Max problem didn't even start this year. It goes back to 2024, and this year just seems to be the boiling point of the problem that Red Bull have been subpar for a while now. Max has stayed with them in every year because there are flashes that things will or have gotten better. Genuinely, tell me anywhere this year where Red Bull have gotten better. And this is just talking about their car. Their engine is of course a big issue this year since, well, I don't think I should explain how exploding or having malfunctions is not ideal. Performance-wise, the engine is great. It's the best on the grid for crying out loud, but unreliability is its downfall, and what only adds salt to that wound is that the battery aspect of the engine is actual dog shit. It's incomparable to the batteries on Mercedes and Ferrari, which is yet another shortcoming of Red Bull. So all in all, Max has not lost Red Bull. Red Bull have lost Max and have been doing so for the past 3 years. There were flashes that things could improve soon in 2024 and 25, but with no improvement to be found except real minor ones, the issue is reaching its boiling point, and perhaps Max will have had enough by the end of the year. If you have seen my videos from the year so far, you would know that there is an idea I believe in. Max Verstappen will retire very soon. When my channel first started in 2024, I said Max was going to retire because he likes his Red Bull team to be efficient, spotless, and centered around him. In 2024, they stopped being spotless. In 2025, they stopped being efficient. And what good is a team centered around you if they ain't good and are barely going to help you get good results? So in 2026, I'm here to tell you once more that Max Verstappen will retire at the end of the year, and shit, given the trajectory, he may do it before Abu Dhabi. So to every Max fan being like, bro, we're going to Mercedes or McLaren and we're gonna win again, I'm sorry to say, No, you're not. Because number one, Max does not like this regulation of car, and number two, he has never been one to have this massive ego about himself. He just wants a legacy, and in F1, he absolutely has one. If a guy like me, who is very critical of Max, am going to comfortably and confidently say that he is top 5 minimum in the sport's history, then absolutely Max has an everlasting legacy in the sport. So I think Max post F1 in 2027 will be sports car racing around the Nürburgring and other tracks, perhaps very seldomly, and for a couple years too, because another desire of Max is him just wanting to be a family man. Why stay in F1 and get super stressed out, missing out on crucial family time when you could be with your family away from the nonsense of F1? I think give it a couple years and we will see Max back in racing full time, perhaps in a series like WEC, but for about 2027 to maybe 2030, I can totally see Max doing a few races here and there, but mostly being a family man, a family guy if you will. So without their national treasure, Max Verstappen, just what on earth do Red Bull do? Where do they go from here? Since I mean, can you imagine a modern Red Bull team without Max? It's pretty tough. Well, for all the things I just said, I actually think they'll be fine for the most part. Of course, for like a year or two, there will be a big hole in the team and perhaps only a few results despite having a good car, but I think in no time they'll be just fine and operate like a normal team. Plus, if Max leaves, they could truly focus on their juniors properly now. Maybe they can run the team with 2 drivers in mind for once. I think Isaac Hadjar is there to stay at Red Bull since it's clear Mekis loves him and he also has done nothing to warrant his sacking. As for the other drivers, it is tough to call because Liam is doing supremely well so far this year. However, also has been fired once by Red Bull and they don't like to rehire guys, so here is what I think will happen. Liam Lawson will get fired from Racing Bulls as they never plan to rehire him up to Red Bull again, and it would be worth it to put an actual future driver in the second team. This leads to Liam going to either Aston Martin, Williams, or Audi, depending on how things go over there. And to fill in Liam's old seat will be Nicolas Solov, who's having an F2 campaign to remember right now. Lindblad will stay at RB as well, since he is way too young to promote just yet, which leaves to Solov and Lindblad fighting to see who will be the next Red Bull driver. But wait, Hadjar's at Red Bull and Max is gone. Who is in the other car then? Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri is struggling this year since that McLaren car is just not a car at times. This gives him low confidence to drive it well, which leads to poor results for poor little Oscar. He may wish for a way out, and luckily for him, Red Bull need a high caliber driver. So Piastri moves to Red Bull, and whether or not he does good, who knows? Also, just to run it out, Fornaroli, Bortoletto, or Ward will fill in that second McLaren seat. So those were my thoughts on Max this year. Man, oh man, what a rough season. Part of me doesn't want to see Max go since he has been here since I first watched in 2016. In a way, we have both developed in the sport, but I also kind of blame Max for ruining driving standards in the sport. So again, I don't know how to feel about him leaving. Anyways, I want to give a quick shout out to all my Result Fly for the continued support, and make sure to join if you want cool benefits as well as just helping me out. Anyways, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you have a like and subscribe since it really helps me out. Make sure to let me know in the comments what you think of this, and as always, have an amazing day.
Good weather for the duck.